but I don't know that these people know where their money's coming from or massive. There's so much uncertainty
Yeah, I
in
mean, you just don't know
finances of
what
the
it's going to
game.
look like.
And
I mean, what
as yeah,
I
go ahead.
mean, even I mean, not specific to the Orioles, but it still impacts them and it reflects where we are now. I mean, baseball and ESPN breaking up after this
Oh,
year. I'm not shocked by it. ESPN hasn't made any kind of an effort to really make baseball part of its brand. Full
why?
disclosure,
Why?
I don't know.
Okay. Well,
No,
there's a hell of
I
a
do
lot of
know.
reasons.
I'll tell you exactly
It's
why.
old, it's white, it's slow, it's bad. Yeah, like all that.
See, I think that's the. I'm not saying there aren't
There's
elements
200
of truth
games.
to
There's too
that.
many games. There's just a
Not
lot.
saying there aren't elements of truth to that, but that's the lazy way of. The reality is, I'll tell you why. Baseball's a regional game. It's a local game. If you're an Orioles fan, and I'm not even saying you watch 7 days a week, but let's say you try to watch 5 days a week, which is still 15 hours right there on average, right? How many hours a week does it take to watch the Ravens? 3. So, of course, you have a little more disposable time, without ticking off your wife or your kids or whatever.
Well, it's
So
almost
that
like soap opera, an hour at a time,
right.
that my mother would have on Days of Our Lives or
But
whatever. It happened 5 days a week and say, my God, that's like 5 hours a week. That's a lot. And I thought nothing of giving the Orioles 30 hours a week, 40 if I was on the bus back and forth, 100 if you and I are in Toronto for 4 days chasing a couple of baseball games. So, like, the
if you're
baseball time element is you're either nerds like you and me and all in. I'm only half a nerd. You're a whole nerd.
yeah.
You're still with it.
So
Um, or they're trying, Katie Griggs is trying to make little nerds or convert little lacrosse nerds or soccer nerds or get your daughter or your sister's daughters involved in it because they want softball and this and that. It's crowded, dude. It's crowded. And ESPN just said, we can't make money on this. It's too old. It's too white. It's too slow. It's too regional. It's too this. It's too that. Whatever it is, we can't make money
I
on
don't
it.
know
And
if
we don't want to
ESPN can
invest
make
in it anymore.
I don't know if ESPN can make money in anything other than maybe the NFL at this point.
Stephen A. Smith is
And
all they can do.
part of
Yelling
it,
and that
well,
stuff.
and
They're good at that.
full disclosure, and I've told you that I cut the cord, right? I no longer have satellite. I actually, and this is just for the now, in the last month, I actually have not had ESPN. Reason why is I didn't really have a strong need. I have no interest in watching Stephen A. or any of their morning shows in the way that 25 years ago, I loved watching Sports Center. And I love watching Baseball Tonight, with Carl Ravitch, and they'd actually do highlights and all that. I mean, the ESPN doesn't do that kind of stuff anymore. But because the Terps typically play on either FS1 or Big Ten Network or CBS, they're not on ESPN this time of year. Maybe non-conference earlier in the year they are, but they aren't this time of year. I haven't had ESPN in 3 weeks. I will be picking it back up as I pivot to another streaming package that I'll be able to get Masson with and everything. Fubo, for anyone wondering, that's the one. That and DirecTV streaming are the two that offer Masson
I
at this
can't
point in
even
time.
speak to this because you're in Pennsylvania. My wife's a 34-year as of today Verizon employee, and we have the thing we have. So when I
Right.
hear all of this and I hear it from everybody and everywhere, including my kid and
Oh,
whatever, and the thing that
it's a big
drives me just
question.
totally batshit is that when my phone, I'm planning right now doing the crab cake tour thing in August, and I'm going to be out on the road. I'm going to do my favorite foods all over the state with the lottery and sponsors and whatnot. And it just drives me crazy that when I'm out in places at 7 o'clock at night that I can't put the phone on in my car on video, that I have to
Mhm.
have BAL on the radio. No offense, Brett, anybody on business. Like I should be able to watch the game in the toilet at a rest stop on I-95 if I want to on my phone. And it should just be clear. And I think between the Angelos family, cord cutting, Masson's disillusion, like just all of this thing, and I'm an old guy, but I'm a young old guy, and I
Right.
can figure things out. I'm just trying to like feed me what the charge is. When I go
Sure.
through the tunnel, I know what it costs, and I just like at some point they need to figure their model out. And
Well, the
this
next,
goes into Dylan Cease and signing players and
no
how much
question.
money they're going to have and all that because they have not in any way, especially here. If it's a regional sport here, it's dead here because it's been run into the ground by the creep that owned the team for 30 years and everything about it, including today that you could go down and get a press pass and I can't because the woman who's been running the place from the old people still thinks I'm a jerk and never met me. So they're still doing things to this minute that have to do with old world that I can't explain to anyone in my world, and I can't explain even how to get the games. And I think until they get to the point, and it's gonna become pay for the game like Apple TV on Friday night, where they just take the game away from me and make it so hard. This starts at the top of a level of arrogance in these country clubs. I mean, Manfred's been making $30 million a year since Peter ran for me at the Hyatt back when he got named, and so these are not people making decisions based on I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Katie Griggs knows or not or in this, but they just got to change so many things in order for this to be as successful as it could and should be.
Yeah, no doubt. A couple things, and I'm trying to work backwards. To finish my point on ESPN, I haven't missed it. I've missed it one night when the U.S. played Canada last Thursday night in the hockey, the All-Star, format that they
Well, do you
did.
miss the Orioles when they're on Friday night and playing some game in the
And
middle of the?
I was just finishing my
But
point on
yeah, but it's
ESPN.
easy to miss things. I
See
guess
the
is what I'm
the
saying.
next frontier, and look, full disclosure, you can watch games on your phone if you have a subscription to Masson, right? If you have Masson through your cable provider, your satellite, Fubo, DirecTV streaming, that's basically the net. Or if you're out of if you're out of the Baltimore area, MLB.TV, which is a great service, but that's for out of market. If you're in market, you're out of luck with that. So the next frontier is direct to consumer options, being able to purchase Masson without having DirecTV or Xfinity or whatever your cable or satellite provider is or used to be. So I think The Athletic actually did a piece on this last week. I think it was in concert with the Mets now have a direct to consumer option. We are now up to, I believe it's 22 of the 30 major league teams now have a direct to consumer option. When I say direct to consumer for everyone listening, meaning there is some kind of subscription that you can pay, and most of the teams are, it's $30 a month, or you get it, some kind of a package, $130 a year, whatever it is, that you will have a login that you can basically have a Masson subscription and have the Orioles, even if you don't have anything else other than just an internet connection. So that's the next frontier. Is it going to happen this year? I'm guessing not, since we're already a month out from the season, but it better be next year then, because that's where we're talking. And look, there are some other teams like the Phillies, for example. They don't have a direct-to-consumer option just yet. But we're down to 8 teams, and obviously the Orioles and the Nationals are 2 of those 8 teams. But that's the next frontier, and baseball teams and the sport at large, and the ESPN thing ties into this in some shape or form. They're trying to figure out what this looks like. And look, I mean, the NFL, we're starting to see it evolve. I mean, there's been some scuttlebutt the last week that Netflix they want a piece of the action of the NFL Sunday afternoon TV packages. I mean, you talk about something that would really change things. We're not talking about a couple Christmas games. We're talking about if Netflix suddenly has CBS's package, right? I mean, all of these
And
things are
Netflix is
changing.
expensive, from what I understand.
I mean, it's $8. I think it's $8 a month with ads, right? But it's $8 for that. And how much is Max? How much is Disney Plus? How much is if you're going to have
By
ESPN
the
a la
way,
carte?
man, I talked to Leonard. I did a whole segment with Leonard 2 weeks ago about like literally this issue of
It's a lot of
like
stuff.
how do we do it? What he was a direct TV guy because of the NFL.
Sa-
He wanted the games and like
Same. I was
same
for
with
a
you,
long
right?
time. For a long time. And there is a freedom to cutting the cord. However, there is and I, again, full disclosure, the last month I've kind of been shopping around, looking at my different options. A lot of these packages like YouTube TV a lot of them try to replicate what a cable or satellite package is, but you'll find that just about all of them are missing something, right? YouTube TV doesn't have TBS and TNT. What starts next month that TBS is on TBS and TNT? The NCAA tournament, right? So there's always
Is that
whatever
True
package.
TV? Is that True TV
True
too?
TV as well.
Yeah,
Yes,
just
yes.
making sure.
but the point is, like, YouTube TV is a really popular one, but or no, I'm sorry, they have it. Fubo does not. So then it's like, okay, well, you need Max then, which is HBO Max, their streaming service. They have the ability to broadcast games on TBS, TNT, True TV. So you can use
I
that.
don't have the HBO Max because I went
Right.
looking for the rock doc and documentary, and I don't even know what the hell I have. My wife's here
Oh,
fingering through
sure.
the guide, and I'm like, the unavailable, available. She's like, we have that channel, and
It's
don't
a
have that
lot.
channel, and I'm like,
And look, there's an ability to save some money if you are shrewd about it and you're willing to jump from one to the other, 1 month to the other. But it's a lot rather than just paying your cable or satellite provider all those years and everything was there, right?
let
So
me say what I say to my wife. I'm not giving any of those rat bastards on the internet my credit card.
fine,
That's it.
fine. No, that's fine. And you're not alone in that, I think. But this is the new world. And just as consumers are trying to figure it out, these teams are trying to figure it out. Now, the
And
NFL,
it's at the basis of how baseball is going to do.
sure.
Like it's
The
the most
NFL,
important thing baseball's going to do is really organize this and sort it out
no
and
doubt.
not say, well, back in 1974, Mr. Steinbrenner had it out for everybody and the Hawks and the Doves of the owners in 94 in Reinsdorf. Dude, that little Johnny, little Sally, you're going to sell them baseball, you're not. And they've
Yeah.
done a lousy job. They really have. They've done a lousy job of selling a 55-year-old, 56 now, year old guy named Aparicio who lives and dies baseball in the
Sure.
Orioles and built a friggin' media company to support what they do. And I can't figure it out. Although I love, I'm going to watch the games. You and I are going to opine. I'm going to know as much as anybody knows about it
It's a
through
lot.
you. And you got to get it to me.
No doubt.
You got to
Well,
help me figure this out so that my wife might want to sit and watch the Orioles too.
and that's where I still think, and this doesn't just go for the Orioles in baseball. I would say the same thing about the NHL. I would say the same thing about the NBA.
Ooh, the NBA is
I
having real trouble, right?
the yeah, and that's where ESPN's still married to them, right? That's why I kind of said I'm not sure the ESPN's making money off anything but the NFL at this point. But on the flip side, the NFL gets more and more and more expensive, right? So for all these rights holders. But I think with those other leagues that are clearly, it's the NFL's way up here and the rest of them are fighting for the scraps, right? Regional, local interests, right? Baseball's a local game because even as someone who loves baseball, and I say this more pretending I was just Luke Jones, the Orioles fan, right? Rather than a media member, it takes a lot to follow one team, right? So if I'm a diehard, how much time do I really have to watch other games on a regular basis? And that's why I keep saying, like, these
I don't know how I
national
did it when I was
packages,
18. Caps, terps, bullets, like no,
sure,
and then these lacrosse heads would get all ishy with me. I'm like,
right.
dude, I don't. I got
There are
the
only so
spring
many
training
hours.
starting, and then there's college basketball, and there's Patrick Ewing, and and then there's the
And oh
Final
yeah,
Four,
you
and
might have a wife or you might have
no,
kids.
no, 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 no. Raw as War is coming to town, and Stone
Right.
Cold's here. And I'm trying to meet girls, and there's a
There's a
concert on Monday and a concert on Wednesday. The Stones are here. There's just, and
The
add
NFL is
in,
the one thing that is immune to all that, right? The NFL is king. And maybe it won't be forever, but right now it is. Everything else, I mean, everything else kind of cannibalizes themselves, right? They're all fighting for it. And but the reality is for baseball, to bring it back to specifically, they have to figure out how this is going to fit. I've said to you a model to check out, and you should look at this just because you're a sports business guy. Take a look at what MLS has done with Apple TV. Basically, their entire menu of games, like it, my brother-in-law is a Philadelphia Union fan. Everything is on Apple TV, save for maybe a handful of national TV games, over the course of a month or a week, whatever. But their entire package is basically that. Like, you don't see the Philadelphia Union, I don't think. I could be wrong on this, but my understanding is you don't see any of their games on NBC Sports Philadelphia. It's all on Apple TV. So I think baseball in some shape or form, and again, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. Maybe it's Prime, maybe it's Netflix, maybe it's a combination of a couple, where you'll ultimately see all these teams have their games kind of base there, and then you'll have either a subscription to everything like NFL Sunday Ticket, or you'll have a subscription to your specific team. And I think that's where we're going in some shape or form. I
A
don't know
season
exactly.
ticket is what
Yeah,
you're looking to do.
but what's the price point there compared to all these teams having these RSNs or RSNs that paid for rights fees that was connected to these cable and satellite monsters that were much more lucrative? But we all know that that bubble burst a long time ago at this point, and the air isn't out of the balloon entirely, but it's
Dude, let me tell
leaking.
you this. Let me give you a model on
It's
this.
going to
If
be
it's
empty.
$299 a summer for your mother to have games, that's $50 a month now, right? 6 months, right? So that's 300. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
And you could break that down and say, well, it's $1.64 a game or
you know,
whatever. However, you're going to do the math on that, right? Is your mother spending 300? Is your sister or you and your brother, me, my wife? I don't know. That's not an outrageous ask. It's not an outrageous amount of money. It sounds outlandish on the whole, though, when you break it down and say, and what am I getting and what's it worth? And how does this regard to Masson and other things and Perchkeys and Birdlandies and like
so
Murchies and all of that? Like, if that's their model, and I say no, what's the model to just watch the Twins on Wednesday night or whatever? $5
yeah,
a game, $8.99? Then I'm never buying it, except if it's September 21st and it's a knockout game. And then maybe I'll just go to the game that night
right.
instead. But I'm probably not going to go to the game because I haven't watched any of the games because I didn't give them $300 to begin with.
Sure. Well, and this is where they have to figure out the price point that makes sense. Um, for context, because we are now at a point with the way that some of the, Bally and the RSN models crumbling, bankruptcy, we've seen that, we've followed that from afar, even if it hasn't happened with Masson specifically. But the Cleveland Guardians, some similarities with the markets, Baltimore, not exact, I'm not saying it's apples to apples, but relatively close, I suppose. They are now, their games, you can buy them directly. They have a direct-to-consumer option through Major League Baseball and MLB.TV. The Cleveland Guardians, you can pay $19.99 a month. You can pay $99.99 for
Does
the
that
entire
19.99
season.
a month and I got to buy 12 months or 6 months?
I think it's just per
So
month.
what happens when the team stinks in July? They're not going to stink. But if the team stinks in July, you just get rid of you
You
just say
can,
I'm out.
you can,
Okay.
or you do the cheaper one and it's $100 for the year, or and that's that obviously you save some money doing it that way. I mean, that's not you see that all the time with cable and satellite and streaming options, things like that. If you commit to a longer time, you get it for a better value. And then they have
The
the
smarter thing to do
option.
is charge $200 and give them 8 tickets for 2 games. Like
Well,
that's where this
sure,
thing's going to wind up going, right?
sure. I think that's absolutely something that you'll see teams. I think that's an option that
Well, they
would
have
be
a
on the
thing
table.
now. I mean, I had Robbie
But
Leonard on. We were talking about the Orioles. He just gives him $1,000 at the beginning of the year, puts it on his credit card, and just decides I'll use it whenever I want. That's kind of
yeah,
another thing you can do, right?
what my best friend actually, it wasn't quite that much, but it was a certain amount of money, and he bought a certain number of tickets for a certain number of games over the course of the year. I think he last year with his kids, he was kind of busy in April and May. I think he started doing it in June, and then it was through the summer. But and then the last option that I wanted to mention, just because I was going through this Guardians new frontier for them, as they're no longer tied to just cable and
Well, this is a
satellite.
model the Orioles could
Um,
look at.
the Cleveland Guardians TV and MLB.TV, which is basically NFL Sunday Ticket for Major League Baseball. That's $200 where you would get the Guardians and everything else for the season. So, look, for the baseball fan who had DirecTV or Comcast or whatever they had for all those years, they'll pay that gladly. The difference is the number of people that were subscribed to cable and satellite who were paying for Masson or paying for Bally or
Which is honestly what got Mr. Angelos rich, right?
sure.
The
That's
honest to
what got
God truth, and I
all
did
these teams got
years of
rich
this.
that way.
For 20 years, I tried to educate people that if you live in Middle River, look down the street, and every house that you have has cable TV.
Even
They're
if they
all
don't watch it.
$3.50 a month for
They
the
may
Orioles.
never put Masson on ever, but they
And
paid
every
for it.
neighborhood you drive into, everywhere. Go to
Yeah.
Parkville, go to Dundalk, go to everywhere you go. If you fly into BWI, look down Everyone down there that had cable television in 2003 was giving Mr. Angelo's 37, 42, $52 a year, whether they were, dude, that
And
financed the whole era of baseball, all that we didn't drink in, but that's how Mark Teixeira got paid in baseball 20 years
yeah,
ago.
this is where I think, and I've had some experience with this too. As I told you, I've cut the cord. I have an indoor antenna in my living room here in southern
Does
Pennsylvania.
it have the
I
little thing that goes, eh?
No, 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 no. It's
I
actually
want to, come
it's
on.
funny. It's actually I'll actually next time we reconvene, even if it's just you and I talking on Zoom, I'll show it to you. It's very, it's very simplistic. It honestly just looks like a sheet of paper, like a blank sheet of paper, basically.
In the old
Um,
days, I had a thing that would get Gary
but
Michael Capetta in on channel 29 and 17 from Philly.
my point with saying that is people are cutting the cord. Antennas are becoming not a widely used thing, but people are using them again. If you're baseball trying to cast a wider net in this new frontier of streaming, hmm, maybe it might be a good idea to put 20 games on free TV again to serve as commercials to get people to subscribe to your $20 a month service for a baseball team. I'm just saying, I think in this day and age, as we're going away from conventional cable and satellite, I think that might be something that teams should at least think about. And whether it's 20, whether it's once a week, twice a month, whether you're talking, put it on channel 13, channel 11, in every given market. I do think there's probably something to be said to utilizing that in terms of that being another commercial for your product. Otherwise, you've to the point that I made a couple minutes ago, everyone that's a 1A Orioles fan will gladly pay $20 a month for games, right? I mean, they won't even think twice about it. But for the people like my mom, just to use it, hi mom, really simplistic example, is she going to do it for $20 a month all season? Nope. She might do it in September, but otherwise it's going to be, well, I'll just watch games when I'm over at your house or over
They'll
at
do
your
what they
sister's
did in
house.
hockey season. I'll tune
Yeah.
in the games in the playoffs.
Right. So the point with that is you've got to figure out the price point that you want to get. You're going to get all the hardcore fans, right? Assuming you don't charge something that's insane. But is there a number that makes sense that you're still profitable, but is still going to cast a wide enough net to attract new fans? And that's why I said maybe you do want to sprinkle in some free TV games to use as a commercial. I mean, decades ago, the idea of baseball on TV was all about, hey, come out to the ballpark, right? I mean, how many games, you'd show some road games and, hey, come out to the ballpark
Look
when
at
the
how good
Orioles are
that
back
cotton
on.
candy looks on little Jimmy
Yeah.
there eating it.
So,
You want to come
so
have some?
I mean, we're spitballing here. And look, at the end of the day, I'm not a TV executive. I don't know, but I'm just they have to figure out where this is all going to fit. And yeah, the streaming services are absolutely going to be part of this. And that's where, as much as you say you're not going to give them your credit card, they're going to expect you to do that if you want all the games. But at the same time, whatever your new Masson is going to become, whatever that direct to consumer model is going to look like, you got to figure out the price point that makes sense to one, you need to be profitable, but two, you need to have attract a wide enough fan base that you can be profitable and continue to grow and make it healthy. So I think it can be done, but all of these teams, and this isn't just an Orioles thing, this isn't just a Katie Griggs and David Rubenstein thing. This is all of these teams trying to figure out in the new world what that is going to look like. In the same way that we're now seeing the NFL go to more and more streaming games. I mean, that's not going away. That's going to continue to go in that direction.
The
So,
Thursday night football lead to Wednesday night football, and like, oh, here we
like I
go.
said, Netflix has put it out there that, once the NFL is up for their Sunday afternoon negotiating again, they're going to try to get a piece of that. I don't want that to happen, but dude, we know the NFL, they're soulless when it comes to maximizing profits. So if Netflix ends up being the highest bidder, there'll be Sunday afternoon games on Netflix then. And we'll see what that looks like. But, this is all so fascinating in terms of trying to really figure out where it's going to go, what it's going to look like, where can they maximize things profit wise while growing things long term. I mean, that's been where baseball's been so near, so short-sighted in terms of trying to maximize their revenue now, but having no wherewithal to think about what it could mean for them 20 or 30 years down the line. That's why I said I think putting some games back on free TV as you're trying to venture into this new frontier is probably a decent idea. And I think the Utah Jazz, for example, go look at them. They've actually done that the last year or two. They've actually ventured into having some free TV after years of the NBA not being on free TV at all. So it's it's not an easy answer. Everything I said, these are, it's a hypothesis, right? It's a educated guess as far as what it's going to look like. But there are enough teams now to kind of see, 20 dollars a month, $30 a month. How much is a season? Can I get you to spend a little bit more, and then I'll give you the rest of Major League Baseball's games? I think there's a pathway for it to be successful, but really figuring out exactly what it is, I think is really fascinating. And to your point, if you're not New York or LA or Philadelphia or the biggest markets in the country, you've got to be really meticulous about this. You need to be really deliberate about what your price points are going to be in terms of wanting to be profitable, but also wanting to reach enough of your fans to continue to grow and make sure that you're a healthy brand in the big picture. And everyone in TV is trying to figure that out here in 2025, sports and even beyond.
Luke Jones is here. He's Baltimore Luke. This is the last shot kicking the nuts for the NBA. My wife and I were at Cooper's Pub the other night getting delicious chicken Sammy. And I, for the first time, had the salmon and the jasmine rice. It was delicious with the wilted charred spinach. Delicious. We're in there. It's all basketball and golf the other night. It was after the NHL. It was a Friday night. The NHL thing played the night before or whatever. And maybe it was Saturday night. Either way, we were out. It's up. It was Friday night. All basketball on. And the Wizards came on the television. And they were on, and there was another NBA game that was like a real game between two teams that were like good. I don't even know what it was. So two teams that were, above 500. And the game was on. They're playing Milwaukee Bucks. The Wizards were. So, Giannis is in. They're at DC, and there's people there, whatever. So I said to my wife, who was at one point such a huge Celtics fan back in the '80s, and DJ and the Chief, and all that stuff right back in the day. Red Auerbach, Celtics girl back in the '80s. She hadn't watched the NBA. The dude who saved her life's a big NBA fan, as you know, Niels, Dirk Nowitzki, all that stuff. So I said to my wife, who's pretty cool and up on things, knowing what's going on with politics and pop culture and Grammys and Academy Awards. She stays up on things. She's not. I said to her, "Do you know the Wizards record?" She's like, "No." I said, "Well, they played 54 games. It's February. How many do you think they've won?"
Hmm.
And she's like, 54. I don't know, 20, 25. And I'm like, 9.
Yeah.
And that's what she did.
Yeah.
So when you're buying by the month, my point would be, I don't know if I was paying $20 a month for that, whether I'm watching it or not, even if I love the Wizards, even if I love the NBA and I'm out in DC, whatever, on a Friday night or whatever. I would say the parting shot, the last thing I'll say about this is places like Cooper's Pub, places like Costas, when the Orioles go on these bandit Apple TVs and when the NFL goes on these bandit places, they lose every sports bar in America. I mean, they lose all of that ability. And I guess fans, and I've
I don't
done
think
this,
they lose all of them, but
hold the game
they
up
lose
on
enough
my
of them.
phone at the
Yeah.
bar. I've done that.
Yeah.
I've done that.
So some bars, I've been places where they do have that, but yeah, your point is well taken that you're not going to get all of them like you normally do. The NBA, it's interesting you made mention of that. I mean, I've become a 76ers fan over the last decade, and they're horrible this year. I mean, it's,
But at
Embiid's
least
been
they've got
hurt.
20 wins, dude.
Well, they do, but the same point, and my
You don't want to watch
brother-in-law,
them.
my brother-in-law, who is a big 76, I mean, used to be a season ticket holder. Even like this was like Sam Hinkie, like process early years where they were winning 10 games a year. He would go to not every game, but a lot of games. And that was also when he lived further out that way before he married my sister. But even him, like he's even said, wow, the Sixers have made me a hockey fan again this year. Like he's watching the Flyers more. So that's the same thing. Now, they would probably tell you, well, those kind of fans probably spent for the whole season anyway. But yeah, it's a consideration, and that's the whole thing with the cord cutting mindset for consumers at this point.
Let
They
me take
want
another
options and
cheap shot on
flexibility.
that because I'm watching the NBA in the bar, and the ads that were playing between the breaks were hockey ads on
Interesting.
Monumental. And let me give another cheap shot to Monumental just for this. And this isn't about Ted or Zach, whose arrogance is on that Chad Steele level, but he was born into it. It's a little different. Um, the notion that hockey ads and basketball ads and all of that, and I have not literally put Monumental Sports on, and I've had cable TV 3 years where I live now. I don't know what channel it's on. I haven't watched it at all. I don't know
Hmm.
where it is. And I reached in the last
But you've paid
24
for it.
hours.
You've paid for it though.
They're getting their dollar. The Leon's
Hmm.
family's getting its
Yeah.
$1.20 a month from me or whatever it is, right? Whatever the subs are. Um, I reached to a Monumental employee, a broadcaster who I've known for a million years, reached back to me respectfully and said, "We're not allowed to come on." And I'm like, "You're not allowed to promote the team that you're not allowed to promote the network. You're not like what? Like really? Okay, dude. I won't ask again, but it kind of pissed me off because this is somebody that used to
Yeah.
kind of hang out around here, was a part of my thing and part of my world, and I'm like, that's that's not good. I'm in
Yeah.
Baltimore, dude. I got 100,000 people following everything we're doing all the time. Like, I'm trying to help you sell college basketball, NBA, the stuff that you have on, lacrosse, whatever you have. And if I'm inviting people on and you're telling them they can't come on to promote your network, your sport, your thing, is what I would say to that. Luke Jones is
Exclusivity has
here.
exclusivity has two sides to it, right? It's great for the people who are in, maybe, but you're gonna struggle to bring people in from the outside then. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, case in point with the Orioles in baseball, back to the beginning of the beginning of the beginning. They better figure out how to get people to care about this. If it's gonna work the way it needs to work financially for Mr. Rubenstein and on. And every time I think of him, I think of $1.8 billion, and we're gonna pay the bill. We are gonna pay the bill. We're gonna pay the bill, or the bill ain't gonna get paid.
Sure.
So I am Nestor. He's Luke. We'll get back. We'll do some more baseball. We are WNST AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, spring training. And the Orioles are winning a World Series this year. I guarantee it. I think.